Okay. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got everybody mic'd up. All right, next is public comment. Public comment on anything that's not on the agenda tonight. Do we have any speaker cards? No. We're moving right along. Any informal project reviews?
No, sir. No project reviews tonight.
Awesome. Consent agenda, we need to approve the affidavit of posting and the September, October, November, December, and April 2nd minutes. Does anybody want to pull them, or are you good?
I make a motion that we approve the affidavits and minutes, the A, affidavits, and B, the approved minutes for September 4th, C, approved minutes for October 2nd, minutes for November 13th, minutes for December 4th, and minutes for April 2nd.
Second.
Okay. The motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, number 5, discussion items. This is a little further analysis of separating the Planning Commission from the Historic Resource Board, or vice versa. Do you want to? Which one has to?
Oh, you want me to do it? Oh.
You wrote it.
Well, I think for expediency's sake, what we did, we got together as far as looking at the possibility of separating the Historic Resource Board, not historical, but Historic Resource Board, as I wrote it down, separating that from the Planning Commission. So we were asked to review that, research it, and we came up with a report. We met twice. One time Shirley and I met together at one time, and then we met with Todd. And maybe, Todd, you might want to introduce us to what you've got down. Well, I turn it over to the staff right now. Is there anything you want to do on your part before I go into the report?
I think, thank you.
I don't want to leave you out.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Chair Medeiros. Just to kind of reiterate what you just said, this is just a follow-up discussion from the March 12th and April 2nd public hearings about this discussion. And on April 2nd, Chair Friels appointed Shirley Brewer and David Medeiros, commissioners, and to review this process to look into separating the two bodies, Historic Resources and Planning Commission. We did meet. It was back in April, and myself with Shirley and David, and we went through it. And the word was, let's go ahead and put it on the next item, with discussion based on an email that was sent of Commissioner Medeiros's and with Shirley Brewer's review, and to get that on the next agenda. So the signal to me was to go ahead and draft up a staff report, plug in the language that was created by the committee, the subcommittee, and get it ready for tonight's agenda. So that's what I have tonight. So it's just kind of a rehash of what we talked about.
Okay. So Shirley and I got together the first time, and before we did that, we actually reviewed the guidelines as far as the historical guidelines that we have, historic guidelines that we have for the city of San Juan Bautista. And I think, Shirley, you may have some comments about that. I don't know if you want to share that tonight, but as far as I was concerned, I did go through it and found that it needs to be updated, whether it needs to be upgraded. So that's one of the things that we looked at. We thought that so that was some of the things that we went over. And the other thing that we went over is how we're going to do this, if we're going to do this at all. And so we came up with a vision, and the vision was to what we thought we should do is introduce this to the city council and ask them to select some people to become a committee for this particular project, to separate the historic resource board from the planning commission. And into doing that, we thought that that's what we would do. In that committee, we would ask them, whoever is going to apply for that or join that committee, that they would also be candidates to become board members as well. So, and with that said, that was our vision. And do you want to add anything before I go forward with
I
this?
think there was some discussion about the number of members that we needed to do, and it was pointed out to us that we needed, I think it was Ed did that we needed 5. We couldn't have 3. Maybe a little bit more, a little easier to do 3, but 5 is what we need to do. And I know David and I talked about not reinventing the wheel, because that is quite a slog to get through the what took the committee before 1 or 2 years, I think, to put that together. And I think David and I talked about not reinventing the wheel, is that we don't want to, because this is going to have to be turned over to different committees, you know, locally and at the state level for approval. So we want to kind of streamline that process. He and I have pretty much gone as far as we can go at this point. So we wanted the direction of the city council to see if we can actually go any farther with that, and see if there's what interest there would be with the public being interested in being a part of that committee. And then David and I would continue to be part of that committee also.
We would be well, actually, I'm looking for the Planning Commission and the Historic Resource Board to be, the support and guide and review, whatever we need. Anyway, so here we go. We go out to the city council. We ask them if we go forward with this. If we get the go-ahead to go forward with this, then we ask city council to select a committee to start this, and we would be the support, and they would report every month as to what their findings are. And they would put a program together so that it actually happens, maybe a vetting program, how the process is, how do we vet people into the board itself. And I mean, there's so much that we have to do here. The other thing is that, so the first thing is ask city council, do you want to do this? I think that's the biggest thing right there. And if they do, how are we going to do it? And I think one of us, somebody from this particular group, should go to the city council and present it, why we're going to do this and why we think we should do this, and have them agree to it. And then also, if we have a process where we ask the city council to select the group, the committee, and that committee goes through the guidelines, goes through whatever it needs to put the group together, make sure we're ready to go, and they also become candidates for the board itself. So how does that sound?
That's smart. I mean, if the council doesn't want to do it, I mean, you might as well start there. If they don't want to do
Exactly.
it, then we stop, and there's no reason to go any farther.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's probably our first step then, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, that's
Does
how
that
we
sound
got here.
Logical?
Yeah.
Mr. Tweedy, does that sound like a logical step to?
It does seem logical. It strikes me, however, that the planning commission ought to be crystal clear about your motives, why you think it's worth pursuing, so that you can convince the city council to consider that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do we want to do it because we want better decisions? We want faster decisions? What is the reason for separation?
Mm-hmm.
It's a workload issue. Make it clear what it is behind it. And there was some division among the planning commissioners about whether or not to proceed itself. So you might want to get consensus of the commission before you ask the council this question.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
My only concern, I think, about this is about the skills that we need for the new members, about the HRB, because I think it's not only the people that, for example, we could have many people that wants to be part of the HRB, but it's the skills that we need for, because I think I was reading the mail, or not the mail, the
Preliminary report?
yeah. He says, well, it says about need to be. And we need to have a bachelor's degree, art, based on arts or architecture or something like that, to be part of this group. So I'm worried about that.
Did we be able to find people qualified to do
Yeah.
that? Excuse me, Scott.
Yeah, to get, for example, the grants for the for San Juan Bautista.
I believe that's the current guideline anyway.
Yeah. So I think if we go to separate the HRB or Planning Commission, the new members needs to have that kind of skills.
I think those are guidelines, if they're available.
Yeah.
If they're not available.
I think it does say down towards the end, I can just paraphrase it. I mean, if those folks aren't available,
Believe me, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be hard. To
Yeah,
find
okay,
kind of,
that's an important question, if I can answer that for you. We did research that too as well. We've got a guide that we've got here. It's a design review for limited resources. So this is from the, this is from the, it's a website, okay? What's the name of the website here?
Let's see.
National Alliance and Preservation Commission.
Right, National Alliance of Preservation Commission. There is a guideline in here of what to do with your resources based on what the city size and what have you. And there's a lot of good information here. We went through that, Shirley and I, and we think this would be a good guide for us in order to set up the Historic Resource Board. And so there's a lot of answers to your question in this guideline, and I think that's a good start for us as far as that goes. But I think the first thing we need to do, and that's to Ed's concern, is how do we approach city council? That's the first thing we need to do, and why this would be important for the city of San Juan Bautista to split. So I think tonight, or either you ask us to go off and do this, to come up with an explanation as to why we want to do this, or do we want to decide that? But I think before we go any further, I think we can ask the public if they want to add anything to this. Can we do that too? Is that part of a discussion? Can we do that within our discussion or what?
do you both have a general idea of the concerns between the two bodies being basically one?
May I keep this one?
That's the only concern that I've,
May I keep this? The copy? This copy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a website, and it's
my
in that
copy.
website too,
Don't
as
be
well.
giving my copy away.
Yeah, you can give them a copy there too.
So anyway, do you both have a general idea of the concern? Because it was pretty much just the three of us.
Well, I would like a consensus as how we want to go forward with this when we want to ask the city council to do this, why we want to do this. I may have some comments in that direction, why we want to do this, but I would like to see our group come together and decide what we want to go forward with. You know, why do we want to do this? Why is it important? We need our city council to make a decision to select 5 people, 6 people, or whatever, and those 5 people go off and do what they have to do to get this thing established.
Okay.
Not only that, they're also candidates
This is,
to be selected.
that's what my two concerns. First, the skills of the members, and my second concern is to make another bureaucracy step. That's like my two concerns.
I think those are legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
we
we
kind of-
give the group to do. The new group.
Just to study.
The committee.
To study to make sure to answer those
Right.
questions.
If we can save that 2 steps and make it everything easy and make it, make it work. I'm go forward. I'm gonna positive in that way.
If those questions are answered to
Yeah.
your satisfaction. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I get that. I get the bureaucracy stack. The fact is that staff is still doing 2 packets. They're still doing the Historic Resource Board packet, and they're still doing the Planning Commission packet. So the 2 packets still have to be done with that information. And it's pretty much,
Right.
well, for the most part, we're seeing the stuff that's being passed on to the the planning commission. We see it once, but we're still seeing it twice, so to speak. My concerns, was the workload is a concern. And on the historic side, missing something, because my big concern if we approve something or something goes through that's against historic code or has something detrimental to historic code, it's once it's built or once it's remodeled or once it's torn down, then there's no going back. There is no reset on it. So, if we lose a building or a building is greatly modified and because we made a mistake, because we oversaw or we missed something, because we're also concerned with, the horse blanket here, since we're concerned with that, to me, I see a group of people that are going to really kind of pawn over this and do. I'm not saying that we're doing a bad job. I think we're doing a very good job, but I think that there's little things that are missing, little nuances sometimes. The third paint color, the trim on a building, yes, you can take this building down. No, you can't take this building down. It's I see a lot of shotgun approach sometimes. Prime example is the building out there on across from the gas station.
For example, I want to put the Casa Rosa, the frame of time. I think we work a kind of we work a little bit fast, but to me it was so fast as I would. Okay. For example, if we add another path to try to save another building, for example, maybe we delay more time and another building, I'm not talking about Casa Rosa, but maybe another building that could be in danger, maybe could collapse. Yeah, we gave a solution really fast and in the moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I'm thinking in matter of time. We made a solution, a fast solution for.
And you're concerned because we did a fast solution, it wasn't the right
trying,
course?
for example, to save a building,
Yeah.
An historical building, and for example, if we have another kind of emergency for another building, we are waiting. Okay, let's wait the historical resource board to make it the resolution about the building, and in that time that we awaiting the resolution from historical board, that building could collapse or whatever could happen, or I don't know.
No, that's a valid point. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. There's one more step. I get that.
Yeah.
As opposed to us being able to do it all at once. That's a good point.
It sounds like we have a consensus to go forward at
Yeah.
this point, because nothing's going to be decided right now. Nothing is, those things will all be ironed out. Those questions will all be answered to all of our satisfaction, so that we'll know that it's being done correctly and it's being done in the best interest of San Juan Bautista.
Yeah.
And those are all valid questions, but I think we can, what do you think, Scott? Can we go?
Well, if you two would like to continue, then just what we want to do is the presentation to the city council. This is what concerns us, and it doesn't have to be much.
Yeah.
Just workload alone and
Yeah.
us failing on a historic building. That's pretty much my, in
Yeah.
my opinion, that's a big hit.
Okay. How about the public?
Do we have any public comment for?
I have a speaker card. Georgiana?
Darlene, is here, do you want to go first, Darlene?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Thank you. Darlene Boyd, 22 North Street. I did want to say that I remember Ms. Vonk mentioning something about us being eligible for grants. if we have a separate historic resources board in order to preserve some of these buildings. And for our city, I know that that's a big deal. So there are certain kind of grants. I would suggest that the two members that are studying this also meet with some of the people that might have some of the ideas of what the benefits are of having a separate historic resources board. Because they're probably going to know more about that than just looking it up and stuff. So, you know, because they've actually dealt with historical resources. And then I was also thinking that the Historical Resources Board could also help with oversight so that the La Casa Rosa kind of situation doesn't happen again, in that people are there to watch what's going on in our government to make sure that certain, because these people had no permits, they just went ahead and did it, and that's why La Casa Rosa ended up the way it was. There wasn't oversight. Okay, so they might be a help to staff in oversight too. So that's just another idea, because, you know, if you don't want to lose any more historical buildings, and you don't want to lose them either to intentional neglect, like the Chalmers House, or, you know, the kind of thing that happened with La Casa Rosa with the lack of permits, you need somebody to be able to handle that kind of workload too. So that's just another suggestion. But I would definitely include people on this from the community that can help you list the benefits of why you want to do this, and maybe the cons of why you don't want to do it, you know? And if you have the two lists, then you can present to city council. This is the reason why. And you can put in there dollar amounts, like we can get X amount dollars for grants. Those are things to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I hear my name?
Yeah.
Georgiana Gallardi, 1 2nd Street. Darlene made some remarks that I really can agree with, especially when you're talking about your idea of a committee that starts to work on this at the council after the council says okay. I think that should be a pretty general group of people, and not just those who want to serve on the HRB, because if they come there and do the work, they're going to think that we're automatically going to have it separate. So I'm encouraging you to continue the discussion before you get that far. All of my remarks that I was going to make have to do with the people who will serve on this and their qualifications and so forth. You know, we don't have a critical mass here in San Juan to pick from, but we are getting 2 whole new subdivisions of people, and we don't know. They just may come up with somebody who has those skills. I did send the committee an invitation to come to the museum, take a look at what has happened in the past. The HRB existed for a whole long time with some names you may not have forgotten. Ann Fritsch was on that committee once. Pat Garrett used to serve on it. Of course, Caravant. Ted Thoney, he didn't live in town, but he was one of the ones out of town that could serve. So those people, and of course, Rebecca McGovern. And when we talk about oversight, I think her name comes to mind. Another thing is that when we go back and use the general plan as the basis of all of our thinking, I hope, we only have 1 district outlined in that plan. We don't have a map of any other areas. So our old districts have been lost. So I hope they're coming back soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I heard.
Any? That's it. Okay. What were you gonna say?
I heard Cara had expressed an interest in being on the first wave of what we're trying to do, and I shared that with David. Basically, her concern was that so many hours of blood, sweat, and tears were put into what we're doing, that she didn't want to see it torn apart. So that was her main concern. But if there's anybody else, you know, that just in the general population here that would be interested, if they could, how do we go about that? Do you post something like that, or do you have an interest in being a part of that committee? But that comes after the city council lets us know whether they're interested in it or not. But, you know, Cara for sure, you know, wants to be a part of that.
Do you think we're ready to go forward with the city council?
I do. Just to see if, like Scott said.
Huh? You think we're ready, huh?
If you,
You don't think we are?
I don't think you're ready.
Well, we're ready to, you know,
I don't think you're ready to present to city council yet, no.
what we want to know, in my mind, we want to know whether or not they say, this is not going to happen, we're going to leave it like it is, then we're just,
Yeah, but from what I've been hearing tonight, it doesn't sound like you have a clear idea of what the benefits and the cons are. And I think you really, really need to pin those down.
do you have an idea of what we're concerned with?
Well, I mean, what we could do is go off and put this thing together and present it to the next meeting.
No, do you have, okay, let me
Yeah.
ask one more time.
Yeah.
So I've been the only one that's given my
Yeah.
concerns.
Yeah.
Workload, missing something in the historic significance. That's my pitch, that's my throw. Do you both have something also on top of that that is a concern that running us together?
I'm not, right now, I'm trying to put this whole thing together. I'm trying to understand how we need to go forward with this. I am going to collect everything that I can tonight. This is me personally. I don't think I'm ready either, me personally. But I'm ready to go forward.
Well, what,
I'm ready, but I want to be able to put something together for city council, a presentation or whatever we have to do, asking this is what we're going to do, making sure that we have all the consensus in our approach to do that, and then one of us do that.
Do you have concerns? What are your bullet points, your concerns?
I think we should go forward and find out if it's something that they would be open to entertaining that idea.
But they're going to want to know why.
Well,
There's
and I
the
think
rub.
that, you know, what we've heard and what we've heard from the audience and private communications, like from people like Cara, those are all valid concerns, and we need to present the pros and the cons to them. There's going to be things that come up as we go. We're not going to answer all the questions tonight, but I don't want to have a thesis that we're going to present to city council on, this is everything that we know. This
No. Let's bring it back to the simple basics. One of you stands in front of city council, or I stand in front of city council, and I'm going to say, or you're going to say, this is the reason that we want to split the two boards. A, B, C, D, and F, and that's it. And this is why we want to split. And would this be, with this information that we've given you, does it sound like this is something you want to go forward with?
Yes.
And then if they say yes or no, if they say yes, then we do their legwork on how to split the agencies and how the two are going to be able to work independently. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. But without any type of information to give them, other than we just want to do it, it's not going to work.
Right. This is where we're at right now. I want to put that together. I want to present that at our next meeting,
Okay.
what we're going to go forward with, make sure that we capture everything we want to go forward. It sounds like the right thing to do. Make sure that our staff is in on it too as well. And as to the reasons why we're doing this and why we think it's important enough to bring it forward to the city council, and how important it is going to be for the city going forward with that decision making. But I also made notes of what everybody's talked about tonight. And what I'm picking up is the urgency of it, you know, when it comes to dealing with historical situations or anything to do with the history of San Juan Bautista. So the urgency of it, make sure whatever we do is expedient. The workload, we have a workload problem where if we have more people work on it, it's going to be a lot better, alleviate some of the workload. And concentrating our efforts in that particular goal is to do to put more focus on it and able to concentrate on it rather than being wearing too many hats at one time. So that's one thing I can think that I'm picking up, and going after experience, going after people who could be a board member that may have more experience, and more skills. Another thing I picked up is the fact that eligibility for grants was important, and the other thing too, because I think selecting the right committee is important too, and didn't think about the fact that maybe it's not a good idea to make them as acting board members in the beginning. So I don't know. So that's another thing we need to look at that.
No, you're right. It would be a committee of peers. It would be a committee of people that can contribute.
Right.
And then, another thing, if you can maybe throw that one out there, there may be some people up there that don't want to be a planning commissioner. There may be some people out there that care about the historic resource of this community immensely and would rather just focus their time on that. And they don't want to focus, on how many bolts are in a new structure type of thing. That may not be something that they want to do. They may not want to be a planning commissioner, but
Right.
they would be more willing to be.
They're focused and they're concentrating on, that's what they'd rather do than
historic aspect.
spend their time, yeah. And I feel that way too. As a planning commissioner, doing both, I might be losing just that much more focus or concentration, doing double the work. The other thing too is doing more research, finding out the pros and cons.
Yeah.
So I think that we want to do all these things and present that at the next meeting. That would be, if anybody else wants to join in with us, we'll put out a notice of some sort.
Ann Fritsch came up and talked to me after that meeting that we first talked about that, and she said that we don't necessarily have to have all these skilled people on the board, or not board, is it a board?
Yeah.
Board. But that we could have them as, like CV, just have them as resources that they could pull from. They don't have to be there, but we could talk to them. Ann was really excited about approaching him to see if it'd be something he'd be interested in. So that's something we need to put in our report.
Right. But I think we got a good start.
Yeah, and okay, and then, so next agenda, they're gonna be back with the same.
We'll do a follow-up.
On the discussion.
Right.
And kind of get it there. Thank you. It looks like you definitely spent some time on this. I appreciate it. Okay, discussion item over. Thanks again. Action item, consider public structure and residential structure to be recognized during the National Historic Preservation Month in May. Who's got this?
Let's see, I guess I can give a quick staff report. I'm not sure, Chair Friel's, Todd Kennedy, city staff, here to talk about this. This was an item given to me by our Historic Society here in town to recognize a building to be recognized here in town for National Historic Preservation Month. I was asked to go ahead and put it on the agenda for tonight, and we did receive information about it that was received by our staff, and I'm not sure if we have any speakers here in the audience who would like to speak about that, but it was given to me by the Historic Society.
Okay. And it's somewhat generally what we kind of lean on them for the guidance on this one, just because they're in the mix all the time. Do we have any speakers on it?
No.
Okay. So let's see, which ones did they? What will it take here? Oh, okay. Is that Georgiana's house? And then the owners. We don't even have the owners to the two buildings here.
Georgiana
After you
just left.
select, then we contact them and let them know they've been selected, congratulate them.
Yeah.
On the process and give out, we have the photo of the plaque.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, no one's talking to this, I'll talk to it as well. I guess, from what I understand, the two selections was one was the 18th barrel, and that was the business, and the private resident was the Gardella House. And those are the two choices. And when we're talking about plaques, that's what the plaque would look like for both of these selections.
How'd you get those? Did you get-
It's on a website.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think what you got was this, maybe? Did you get a
Just got
copy
two
of this?
photos, yeah.
Yeah.
The photos.
Well, I went off and I did it for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers, but I also did this for the Mason Lodge and also for
Yeah.
the Adobe.
I remember those last year.
Yeah, and I did a previous year too as well on that. So if you want, I'll go forward with this. I'll order 'em. I mean, it's going to take a while if we're going to get it done this month, right? For the city council. So is this correct? It's going to be the 18th barrel and that's it? As far as verbiage goes? And is it going to be the Gardella House? It's not going to be,
It's for the HRB to make that recommendation to the planning commission.
right?
And then we put everything together at the planning commission level, and then it goes on the agenda for the council.
Okay.
So the 18 barrel, that's not the name of that's not the original name of the building, though. That was this was a bakery back in the day.
This is the business.
Yeah. So, yeah, good one.
And we did that with previous plaques.
Business name.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they did put all the work into it, and they are the ones that did, put the work into it and restored it. So, sure. I mean, does
So
that,
not only certificates of recognition is a description of why we, HRB, consider that to the HRB for recognizing them.
okay.
Yeah, I went through, yeah, I think it's adequate. I think it's, but I want to make sure I got the right verbiage on here as far as the title goes. So you think it's going to be okay with the 18th barrel and not the building itself?
Well, that was the,
That's what I thought too. I think we're recognizing the business for what they did because I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And preserving it for many years to come, you might say. And also with the Gardella House. And the only thing I did different, I'm thinking about doing different this year, is actually putting the year date on, this year on here. I didn't put no year date on it at all. So, in other words, for 2019. That's the only thing different I didn't do last time. So that's it. So we're good with that? We're going to make a decision on this?
Well, we're going to move, we're going to basically say that looks good, and then we're going to move it on to the planning commission to make the decision on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you,
I think
Good.
we have a-
do you have a,
Yeah.
Yep, hold on, we're still kind of hash this out, and then I'll go to it. Have you both had a chance to see this, and, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, now can we go to public comment on it? Sorry. I just want to make sure that they were all,
Thank you, members of the HRB. Cara Vonk, I am a board member of the Historical Society. One of the reasons we selected these two and made that recommendation to you is that they followed the process. So both of those projects came before the HRB, and they got the colors approved, the signage approved. Georgiana's was a few years ago, but they went through the whole process. And so that's what we're trying to encourage people to do as well, and that's why we're recognizing them, since they did restore these historic buildings, and they went through the process. Thank you.
oh, thank you.
Thank you, Cara.
That's a great incentive there. That's good stuff.
Yes, I think it's mentioned.
Okay, it is an action item, so do we have a motion to move this to the planning commission? Anyone?
Okay. Make the motion. Okay. I make the motion to,
Bueller? We finished with public comment first, so we can, okay. Public comments goes, you're gonna make a motion?
I make the
Okay.
motion to consider the public structure and residential structure to recognize during National Historic Preservation Month, May, the
Two buildings,
the two buildings, 18 Barrel,
and how do you pronounce the other one?
Gardella?
Gardella House.
Gardella House?
Cordella House? Okay.
Gardella House.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
That moves on.
Yeah, and I just to finish out, it does state in the certificate of a recognition, it does state all that as far as meeting the requirements and
Okay.
what have you. So there is verbiage in there that does support that
Perfect.
as to why we select those particular.
Okay, we're on to 6, there are comments, Historic Resource Board members, any comments? Comments? Probably I'll wait for the next round, huh? City Planner, any comments?
No, sir.
Mr. City Manager, any? Okay, move to adjourn the Historic Resource Board.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. All right. Sure, take a quick break, folks.
Yes, she is. She is right here, number 3.
Well, just from reruns. Sorry.
That was,
I'm sorry, that's a,
You mean you weren't there for the
me
Beatles?
at the
You weren't there for the Beatles?
yeah.
I was there with the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show. 1965.
Remember, we had two channels in San Juan, 8 and 11. You could get channel 2 if you had one of those rotary antennas on a good day.
We had the first TV on our block.
The wind wasn't blowing.
A Silvertone.
Oh, the wind would blow them over all the time. We had
Yeah.
a really busy, a really windy weekend. There'd be antennas bent over everywhere. It was terrible. Ready? You sitting this one out? You got enough? He's like, I've had enough, you guys. He's like, yeah, keep going. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. Go ahead and do a roll call for the Planning Commission.
All right, Scott Friel,
Here.
Luis Manchego,
Here.
Shirley Brewer,
here.
David Maderas,
Here.
and Yolanda Delgado is absent.
Okay. Is there any public comments on items that are not on the agenda? No? No? Moving along. So, we do the presentation then before. Just real quick, is there any informal project? I'm going to jump ahead real quick. Is
No,
there-
sir. No
Okay.
informal project
Okay,
review tonight.
perfect. Okay, we have a presentation from Mary Gilbert, Executive Director of San Bernardino County Council of Governments. You're on.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I may just give a quick overview,
You bet,
introduction?
please.
Okay. Sorry, Mary, I'll be real quick. Chair Friels, members of the commission, Todd Kennedy, city staff, I'd just like to introduce Mary Gilbert, who is the Executive Director of San Bernardino County Council of Governments, as you just stated. This is in response to a question that staff raised a couple months ago, back in February, about asking the commission of if they'd be interested in hearing a series of guest presentations from the Council of Governments and LAFCO and other organizations, just to introduce who they are, what they stand for, and and their influence with the city of San Juan Bautista. And after the response, it sounded like everyone was interested, so I wanted to go ahead and move forward tonight. So Mary is our first of several presentations that we might be seeing coming down the pipes. So I'd just like to introduce her tonight and thank her for coming tonight. And so, she has a presentation for us all.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here this evening. And, you know, I do have a presentation for you, but I don't want it to be too much. If you want to interrupt me and ask questions along the way, please feel free if that works for you all. So, again, my name is Mary Gilbert. I've been Executive Director of the Council of Governments since 2014, but I've been with the agency since actually 1999, so I have a lot of history there and have worked with the City of San Juan Bautista for several years on projects. Our role in the community is, this is our mission statement, improving mobility of San Benito County travelers by planning for and investing in a multimodal transportation system that is safe, economically viable, and environmentally friendly. Nice. So our focus, we are the regional transportation planning agency for San Benito County. That's a state designation. And we operate under a joint powers agreement with the City of San Juan Bautista, the City of Hollister, and San Benito County. So we have a board of directors. We're a separate agency from any county or city. And our board of directors is made up of representatives from your city council, as well as Hollister City Council and the County Board of Supervisors. So, you know, transportation is the name of our goals and what we're trying to do. We're looking for a thriving transportation system in San Benito County, and that includes all modes of transportation from big rigs, cars, and people walking and bicycling. So again, these are just some of the reasons that a thriving transportation system is important. It creates it's better for folks' quality of life. It can connect people to their jobs, economic growth and vitality, supporting business and tourism, and then, of course, safe travel. So our partner agencies, in addition to the locals, we also work very closely with Caltrans. We are in Caltrans District 5, which is based out of San Luis Obispo. So we have a lot of contact and communication with that district as they work on projects and help us do transportation planning. We're also close with the Valley Transportation Authority up in Santa Clara County as we're working on our Highway 25 improvements between Hollister and Santa Clara County. So our major work activities, we do regional transportation planning, and what that includes is looking at usually a 25-year time frame of what the transportation needs are for the community, be that what types of projects we need, how much money we need to fund those projects, and other work activities that we can do that will help improve the transportation networks. We work on highway projects. Again, with our partners at Caltrans, we've worked closely on the Highway 156 widening project. We're working on the Highway 25 project. I'll just bring up right now, I did give you also a handout of our our more significant regional transportation projects that we're working on right now in the county. It's got updates for you on that. We also, funding is a big part of what we do. So COG is responsible for administering some funding, some of which is coming to the City of San Juan Bautista through a couple of different programs, and that's for your local street and road maintenance. And we also handle state highway funding as well that comes through from the state. And we are always going after different grant opportunities as well. The most recent grant application that we submitted in the fall was a planning grant to look at connections to the City of San Juan Bautista and the City of Hollister from State Route 156, as well as looking at what to do with State Route 156 when the new expressway is constructed. The old highway is going to be a frontage road, and there have been plans to build a bicycle and pedestrian corridor along that corridor. So we would like to fund that and keep it going. We operate the local transit system, County Express, which offers service throughout the county and up to Gilroy. Bicycle and pedestrian planning, which I already mentioned. And then most recently we had Measure G on the November 2018 ballot, and that was approved by over 2/3 of the voters. So now we're in the process of implementing that sales tax, which just went into effect April 1st. We did a lot of transportation planning and tried to get as much community input as possible. We had tons of opinion leader and stakeholder conversations. We did hundreds of surveys and had several community meetings when we were putting Measure G together and helping us develop the vision for transportation in San Benito County. So if it's okay, I'll just walk you through Measure G, just kind of what it is and kind of what we're up to now on that. There are 3 tiers of projects. Tier 1 is the Highway 25 Expressway project. That project currently has no state funding. In contrast, the State Route 156 project is fully funded with state highway funds. So that was not included in this project list. But Tier 2 is almost equally important, and that's maintaining local roads, repairing potholes, and other improvements to improve traffic. So the way those funds will be administered is they will go directly to the cities and the county by a formula that's set forth in Measure G. So City of San Juan Bautista will receive an allocation annually and be able to use that for local street and road repair. And then Tier 3 is kind of a catch-all, mobility and more. It may include funding for transit, pedestrian and bicycle safety, or other projects that help with traffic flow. So those are projects that will be selected in the future. We are qualified now. It is a 1% sales tax. We're qualified for state and federal matching funds, and we're expected to get up to $16 million annually. The tax is in place for 30 years, and the tax requires annual audits, citizens oversight, and other taxpayer protections. Our commitment is to just maximize those state and federal matching funds, get funding to the local jurisdictions to fix roads as soon as possible. The tax went into effect April 1. We won't probably see any funding coming through until the fall. And we also have to convene a Measure G Citizens Oversight Committee that's set forth in the ordinance. And we are currently recruiting. The recruitment ended April 30th, but we are probably needing more applicants than we received. So I'll be getting that information to the city once I have clear direction from my board of directors. But that's something that should be coming soon. So if you know anyone who you think might be interested, that'd be something you could let them know. And then finally, our website has a ton of information about all the different programs and projects that we have, including Measure G, but also updates on all the highway projects, Caltrans updates, opportunities to interact with Caltrans as well. And our board meets every third Thursday at 3 p.m. in Hollister, and the public is welcome to attend and give public input and hear about what we're doing. And then this is my contact information here. So happy to take any questions that you have or any discussion that you want to have about COG.
Any questions? Do you want me to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me.
Shirley, do you have any?
Not off the top of my head.
No, really.
Question on the oversight committee. How many people are on the committee?
It's an 11-member committee. So yeah, we kind of, there's quite a few spots to fill. We have specific categories of membership that the board of directors at COG wanted to see filled. So we've got to make sure we've got someone who fits each category, as well as, so there's 6 categories, and then there are 5 at-large members. That would just be general public members, but the others have to fit certain categories.
So folks from San Juan would have to fit one of those categories, or an at-large, of course.
Or an at-large, exactly, yeah. And we do, there needs to be geographic diversity among the group, that's set forth in our statute, basically. So we're making sure that we have coverage of all the supervisorial districts. Anthony Botello is the representative from the Board of Supervisors on the committee, and then your mayor, Flores, is also on our board, our COG board.
Okay. And then the gas and Measure G, the COG oversees that. So you're going to be the agency that oversees it, and then
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
yeah. So we'll do all the implementation and financing and all of that kind of thing.
So 25 obviously needs help. It's a state freeway or state highway, and I'm just going to soapbox. Why the heck do we have to pay for it? It's. I know we're a little San Bernardino County and we don't have that many votes in Sacramento, but
Yeah.
that's frustrating.
I understand, and that's.
When we have a governor that stands up there and says we have $1 billion in reserve, but
Right.
they can't fork out some.
So the way the state highway system is funded is there's sort of 2 pots of money, 2 types of highways, how Caltrans categorizes it, the state categorizes it. There are interregional routes, and there are local highway routes. Highway 25 is a local highway route. For example, Highway 156 is considered an interregional route, and that's because it's an east-west connection. There's a lot of freight traffic on there. It's one of the few east-west connections, all along basically the north-south corridors. Highway 25, though, it's connecting Hollister to Gilroy. Really, that's its purpose, as well as some maybe limited agricultural traffic. The state does not receive funding for those local highways. The money is divvied up and given to regions, like San Benito, and San Benito COG is responsible for expending the highway funds that we get. They're very limited. We get about $2 million every 4 years on that state highway account. And for example, Highway 25 is going to cost $241 million to fully expand. So of course we'd never get there just with our state allocations. That's why we went for Measure G, to have local funds. And it also allows us to qualify for those state matching funds. So there's a whole pot of money under the new gas tax, Senate Bill 1, that is for state and local partnership. So we can now apply for those funds and ask for the state to chip in more for Highway 25, which is what we will be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers a lot. I mean, it's,
Does it? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's-
I mean,
it's
if you want me to
frustrating,
clarify
you know,
anything, it is absolutely,
that
yeah.
we're forking out and it says, we might as well just take the state highway off of it and just call it,
And some regions, I think, have done that, yeah.
like
where they've-
J59 that goes through Merced
they
County.
say, just let us
know.
take care of it, and,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. South of Ridgemark, Highway 25. Did the name change from Airline Highway to Pinnacles Highway or something like that?
It did not. No, that was a proposal, I think, when Pinnacles first was designated a national park. The portion of Highway 25 between, just in the city of Hollister, like from San Felipe Road to, I think, Sunset, is called Pinnacles National Park Highway. The city of Hollister designated it as such.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but not
Okay.
past
Okay.
Ridgemark.
Yeah, it's Airline Highway. I mean, it's been Airline Highway
Right,
almost 100 years now.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I do. I have one
Oh,
question.
Dave, sorry, Dave.
I know. Well, you were
You
going
were
to come
being
back.
quiet,
You were going to
Dave.
come back to me. On 156, we got 4 lanes going at the expressway from Hollister to San Juan Bautista. That's it. We're not going to get 4 lanes all the way to 152.
Not
Yeah.
at this time,
Not at this time.
right.
And I just, I don't see,
I asked Caltrans that same question.
yeah,
How is that
it's,
gonna
it
fix
just
anything?
doesn't seem like it's going to work, you know? I mean, yeah, it's better than nothing, I understand that, but, so that's it,
Yeah.
for now.
Right. These highway projects take time. I mean, statewide, and you hear how much they cost, so often they are done in phases. So I would consider this almost a phase 2, the expressway that's out there right now, which was built, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 years ago, was phase 1. Now we're on to phase 2, and that phase 3 is certainly in
Well,
our
it was never
long-range
expressway,
plan.
though. I'm sorry, it was never expressway. It was Highway 156 or San Juan
Yeah.
Hollister Road.
Right.
So,
I'm talking about the port from 101 here to the Alameda. I think it's considered an expressway by Caltrans at this
Really?
point.
Well, you must have changed that. Because it used to be a scenic highway at one point in time, and all those signs went away.
Okay.
So they could do
yeah.
whatever they wanted to do. But, so it's going to stop at,
At Union Road, at Union and Mitchell Road. They will make improvements to that
so
intersection.
it's going to go from
It will
4
go from,
to 2.
well, it'll just, excuse me, let me correct myself, just through the intersection. So
Yeah.
the 4
Right.
lanes will get through, but yes, it will go
Right.
down to 2.
And a roundabout at Bixby?
A roundabout at Bixby, yes. And then another roundabout at Highway 25 and Highway 156 further up. But, again, State Route 156 is an interregional route, and so it does qualify for that state funding. So we're definitely advocating with Caltrans as they do their long-range planning along with us that that's something they need to be looking at for the future.
Richmond will have a 4-lane parking lot.
I was going to ask about, and that's the only roundabout, right?
At Bixby.
There's, I was always thinking maybe we're going to get a roundabout here at the Alameda.
So part of that grant that I mentioned that I
Yeah.
applied for in the fall is to look at that intersection as well, and what can we do at the
What year are we
Alameda
looking at
and
there?
also at Union
If
Road.
anything happens there, how long that's going to take, do you know?
It would depend on funding availability and stuff, so, but we don't have specific plans put
Yeah.
together yet, so, but yeah.
I mean, that's a better place than Bixby.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, it's,
Bixby's a pretty bad road, too. And nobody
Yeah.
really drives on it because you'd lose your teeth when you drive on it.
yeah. It's in the
Okay,
middle.
well, thank you, appreciate it. Oh, we have a couple comments or questions.
Oh, I got, you had to go, but no, that's fine, okay. Sorry. Okay.
I'm just wondering if it's possible to have Highway 25 designated as the interregional highway rather than 156, since 156 cuts right through our town.
So the question being is, could Highway 25 be designated an interregional highway? It just doesn't meet the criteria that the state has set, although we are advocating at COG to see if they, as they re-examine that criteria, the state puts together a state highway plan where they make those designations. And so when we have the opportunity, we would make that request. But the criteria is really about the volume of traffic and the type of traffic. For example, that there is so much freight traffic. It's a freight corridor and also an east-west connection. So there are so few east-west connections in the state of California, really, that they really kind of prize those. Whereas, Highway 25 just going north-south, just connecting a small community to Highway 101 doesn't really meet the criteria.
Well, I guess my question is, if it's going to be widened to a 4-lane highway, I don't know what the criteria are. Why couldn't it meet the criteria? Since it seems a shorter route too, a more direct route.
But it's, I guess it's not really a direct route from, say, the west, so from, the coastal communities or from Salinas. Everyone, figure all the traffic that needs to go east, even across the country to deliver produce, et cetera. So that's why it gets some of that attention.
It's more of a diagonal as opposed to coming out.
Well, traffic coming from, say, Salinas would not probably use Highway 25 to get eastbound necessarily.
This is the first trial.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the big, it is a major route, and that was addressed during the 4-in-1, when the Farm Bureau had
Yes.
those concerns to put it out there, and it was it's safer to run it out there as opposed to running all this traffic through here, but
Right.
Caltrans has a lot of work with, there's a 4-foot, almost a 5-foot water main running down 156, there's homes, it was a mess, and when they first did their presentation, they had no idea that San Felipe project was there. They just had some cannon fodder out there that basically took a beating from the community for about an hour, and then everybody left, but they were going to do what they wanted to do anyway, so.
Yeah, that project is on track. Again, it's fully funded, and it's looking like it will be completed in 2022 with construction starting in spring to summer of 2020. It's a 2-year construction process.
So it's only 4 lanes, it's not frontages?
It's a new 4-lane facility, and then the old highway, or the existing highway, will be the frontage road.
Right. You got 4 lanes, they're gonna put in 4 lanes. The old highway's gonna be the frontage road.
Yeah.
The original highway's gonna be frontage,
So they're building 4 full new lanes for traffic.
so it'll be 6 lanes.
How much ag land is that?
I don't know how many acres, but I do have access to all that information. I'd be happy to send it to Todd and have him share it with you.
It's we're just kind of beating a horse right now.
Yeah, they
but-
are,
Sorry.
yeah. They're trying to tighten up the width as much as possible to preserve as much ag land, and certainly that was always our biggest concern as they were going through the planning process.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'm
Very
just,
quick one.
yeah.
Is Caltrans going to pay for the frontage road improvements?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, they are responsible for doing that. It will get relinquished to San Benito County, but they do have to commit funding to that.
So 6 lanes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank you.
invite.
It's a lot of money.
With that cheery note, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good here on any informal project reviews? We said no. Action items, okay. 6A, approve affidavit of posting for the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the affidavit of posting agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approve the 5B, approve minutes of April 2nd meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve minutes of April 2nd 2019 meeting.
All in favor, or we have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're to the, it's the resolution for the historic buildings. Consider resolution for 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Approving section of the residential structure for Preservation Month. The same building we saw already. Do we need to do you want to discuss it all? Anything?
Which one's the first one? 18
Residential.
barrel?
No, residential. C is.
Oh, the residential. Yeah, okay. Oh, you're going with C. Okay,
Well,
gotcha.
it's-
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment on it? Nope. Back to us. Do you want to move along? We pretty much already approved it, so. Motion?
The motion to the consider resolution 2008, 2019, approving selection, December 11, approving
Number-
selection,
Number 11.
November 11, approving selection of a residential structure for Preservation Month.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Next, consider Resolution 2019-12, approving a selection of a commercial structure for the Preservation Month. And that would be the 18 Barrels Building, which was originally a bakery. Any discussion on it? Good. Any public discussion? None? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, resolution for 2019-12 of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista recognizing the 18th Barrel Tasting Room during National Preservation Month and recommend to the City Council.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. I'm talking about, moving right along here.
Yeah, I got a question on that. So, once we approve this, it goes to City Council, and when are they gonna do the presentation?
I'll look and see how we did it last time, but, I mean, presentations and reports are at the very beginning of the meeting.
So do you think, is it gonna be this month?
Would be Scott. Yes, because it's National Preservation Month, we really wanted to get it moved through this month.
Right. Okay.
Do you want to be my proxy on that? Because I'll be working, so.
I don't need to.
I won't
Yes,
be
okay,
there.
yes. All right, Scott.
Retired guy, come on. Next year, I'll be able to do them all, but not this year.
Good.
Yeah. All right, moving on to discussion item, report from the planner on current upcoming projects. Break out the blankets.
Mr. Chair.
You're
members-
on, Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, staff, good evening. Right now, just the form or the document that I have here just did some reorganization from last time, kind of merged building activity and code enforcement activity together as one, just kind of cleaned things up and just made the necessary updates. And myself or city manager, any of us can answer any questions you may have.
Luis, want to start with you? Do you have any questions?
No further questions right now.
Okay.
Nope.
Shirley, nothing?
No.
David?
Midnight Express. Where are we at with that?
It's a good question. Ed, you want me to go ahead and take a shot at that? Okay. What we have out there right now is been approved by city staff back in December for temporary use. That's what's happening out there on the site. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have seen, vehicles, trailers, trucks parked out there. And it's part of their phasing that they've stated to us. And that was all stated in a document. I could definitely share that with you. Actually, I think I did share that.
You did.
Okay. That was signed off by city staff as part of their phasing.
Right.
In addition to that, as part of their business, that's part of, the trailers and the equipment that's out there. So the thing is that it has been designated as what's called temporary use permits. And those are only good for 6 months. That was signed off in December, so that means in June is when it expires, which means they have to reapply. They have to reapply through city staff. And at that time, we met with them. We let them know that, these are concerns that have been raised, and this is what we're up against. So they need to provide a detailed site plan to us about what it needs to, what's going to be taking place on the site. So anyway, that's pretty much where we are right now at this point. They do have a set of plans under review with us for a 5,000 square foot building, which is smaller than the 14,500 square foot building that was approved by the Planning Commission back in March of 2018.
Is that site plan, is that going to come before us?
The site plan for the temporary use permit?
No. Well, yeah, that will come, but what about what about the structure? Is that going to?
The structure, since it's already been approved by Planning
Right,
Commission
right.
and it's been deemed by city staff as less than significant, smaller than what was, less intense than what was already approved, that's went through right to the building permit process. Let's just say, for instance, if it was bigger than that, like say if they went up to like 20,000, let's just say,
Right.
then that's more intense. That has to go back before Planning Commission. In this instance, since it's smaller, it's less intense. And, typically, how it normally works. But in this instance, because of, what's happening on their end with, I don't want to go into details about what's happening with them, they wish to do a phasing, So that's the latest what I can report right now at this time.
One of the things that I don't recall, was there a plan to do something with the road? I mean, the entrance, because one of the things that it came to my attention this last couple of weeks was making our town walkable, and the Greenleaf has put in sidewalks and what have you. Will this particular project have a sidewalk and everything else included, part of the building? And are we, when we're putting in, because it's agricultural business and all, are we thinking it being walkable too, and making sure there's sidewalks and there's entrances that are conducive to that, and it's more presentable rather than just a building out there?
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, start with the general plan, as someone earlier suggested. This area is designated as manufacturing and industrial, and there are existing agricultural uses. It is not intended that there will be sidewalks on that side of the street. And as the site plan that was approved by the Planning Commission did not require sidewalks along that right-of-way. You did require improvement to the street surface itself, and the City Council has approved what's called a deferred improvement agreement that phases those street improvements in connection with the phases of their private development. The initial road improvements will be at the driveway, and some improvements along, actually for us, along New Well 6.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because you have homes out there, and it's like a separate, you're kind of not, why isn't there some kind of connectability there when as far as development goes? So it's, why can't we just walk out there? Why do we have to drive to work or stuff like that, and are we thinking in those terms as we develop that side of town?
As I said, the general plan does not now contemplate that. A year and a half ago, I told the then planning commissioners, I'll tell you again, I've told the council several times, that the entire area south of the highway
cries out for the preparation of a specific plan to address the kinds of questions you raise. It's almost as if we went into our paint box and picked every color we could find and painted it on the south without any understanding of how one land use is going to interrelate and connect to the other, and how it relates to the other side of the street even. More importantly, how the heck we're going to extend city utilities to those sites is not contemplated by the general plan. We need to move to the next step. The so-called specific plan addresses the general plan vision, but puts implementation measures in place so that the kinds of questions you've raised and the questions I've raised about how we're going to extend utilities can be dealt with. We, Todd and I, have had the occasion, and my predecessor have had the occasion to talk with many property owners in that area who have dreams of how they'd like to develop their property someday. And we can't tell them whether we have the capacity to serve them or when we could, unless they're willing to pony up all the money necessary to extend city services. But if all the property owners work together, there may be mechanisms in which those services can be extended and the city's vision for the general plan area can be achieved. But it requires a little bit more planning effort than the general, so-called general plan has provided to this point. But specifically on walkability, the walkability is in front of the residential, but is not, sidewalks are not required in front of the ag or the industrial properties.
So what efforts are being made to bring the people together as far as the property owners and coming up with a more specific plan?
Well, we have suggested to some of those property owners who've met with us that they need to have kitchen table conversations with their neighbors about whether or not they are willing to participate in the costs of the preparation of such a plan. I've represented to them in my short time here that I would be prepared to recommend that we would cost share with property owners on a specific plan, but it's not something that the general taxpayers of San Juan Bautista ought to take on without participation by the property owners who would benefit from it.
Anything else?
That's
I'll get to them, but I'd like to finish here.
okay.
Question, I want to kind of ask a couple more questions about I read the letter for Midnight Express, and nowhere in that letter did it say that property was supposed to become a pallet storage yard. I have a feeling that our fire marshal may not be very happy with it. Basically, that's a lumber yard. It's a 2-story lumber yard right now. Extremely dangerous. I don't understand how that happened, but it happened. I drove by there today, and it looks like a wrecking yard. And I didn't read anywhere in the letter. I could be forgetting, but I read in the letter saying that they could store all their stuff out there. The letter was very vague. I could be wrong, but it wasn't the intent of that. What they have out there right now was not the intent of what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an agricultural distribution facility that was paved, and it was only supposed to work a certain time of night. I mean, we had everything. We hashed it out. The whole thing was terrible to begin with. The whole presentation, everything was terrible to begin with. But it wasn't that wasn't what we intended to have. And all of a sudden, I drove by there today, and I went, "What the heck? Where's the building? How come they're not building? And how come there's a wrecking yard with pallets stacked everywhere?" And so, in June, I'd like to have some say on that, because I kind of feel like what we did here, the folks that set up there, kind of somebody just said, "I don't care what you did here, and we're going to do what we want to do." And that's what I'm seeing it as. And it irks me. Nobody's, just for the record, there's nobody up here that signed off on that. That's not, I don't need to go any farther, but.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members, in fairness, the Planning Commission approved a site plan and a development plan that takes time to develop. And they have assiduously prepared their engineering and building plans. They're being reviewed, and what you approved in terms of its ultimate construction is consistent with what you approved and will take place. The property owners did ask in the letter to which you refer, and I will acknowledge that it was vague, but the sentence that they rely on was their request that they be allowed to conduct their business on the site on the property that they owned, and that was approved. Their business consists of storing and using trucks and trailers and pallets. But Mr. Kennedy has pointed out to you that under the city code, the city manager may issue temporary use permits. This one expires in June, and if it's to be renewed, we will indeed be seeking more specific information about what is allowed and under what circumstances.
Okay. I'm not venting at you folks, anybody here. I'm venting because to me it just seems like, I don't know, it's embarrassing what it looks like, and it's embarrassing, and I'm not going to say anymore.
You know what else they're doing, Scott, is clearing underbrush and just shoving it right up to the property line where they were, instead of taking it away or burning or whatever. It's just kind of adding to the overall site of
I'm
it.
concerned with disruption on the exclusionary zone. There is a construction exclusionary zone due to the fault line, and it is a riparian area, and that wasn't supposed to be affected. There's a lot of stuff that seems like it's going on that shouldn't have gone on. Okay. Do we have any more questions before I go to members of the public? Anything?
One question and one comment. Since it's going to be a new building, a 5,000 square foot building instead of a 14,000 square foot building, doesn't this have to come before you for design review since it's new construction? That's my first question. And then my comment is that the city actually got quite into developing a specific plan for that whole area when Jan McClintock was city manager here. And I think we had a grant. I don't know if we did or not, but...
We even adopted the specific plan, but it was mooted by the new general plan.
Oh, it was mooted.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way we can resurrect that specific plan and use that as a jumping off point, perhaps? Because a lot of community effort went into that. And there were community groups. We went out there and met with the consultants, and, it was a big deal. And a lot of people spent a lot of time thinking about how that area should be developed. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a good question, is if it's something we can revert to. Is it, the work was done at one point in time.
The city actually adopted a specific plan. It was called the South San Juan Specific Plan. Mm-hmm. But as said off camera here, off microphone, it was mooted, that is to say, made ineffective by the adoption of the general plan, which adopted new land use designations than had been adopted in the so-called specific plan.
Yeah, and just so folks know, a lot of the watercolor up there isn't even in the city limits. I'm not sure what this map is all about, to tell you the truth.
Well, it's the city's planning area, and the general plan does encompass more than just the city limits.
Well, yeah, I get that, but some people. Okay, maybe we need to get bend the ears of our local city council members and talk about getting this going again. Anything else on that? Todd, are you good on? Or you have any more on the?
No, sir.
Nothing pending, nothing scary, nothing.
The roundabout.
Oh, roundabout. Ed just loves that. It's just he's just like, oh, I wish we could have went without saying roundabout tonight.
There are several in the general plan. Which one are you speaking of?
Our friends at Meritage, are they playing ball or?
So, as you recall, the condition of approval for Rancho Vista required that they build a roundabout on First Street. To do that, we need right-of-way from both sides of the street. I can report that we now have an application from the landowners across the street that dedicates the roundabout right-of-way sufficient for the roundabout that was contemplated at the time you and the city council made that condition of approval. Meritage continues to raise concerns about whether or not the roundabout size is sufficiently large to handle what is called high-speed roundabouts. They're concerned that the traffic coming southbound on First Street is sufficiently speedy that a larger roundabout, in their view, would be required. That would require more right-of-way, more additional construction costs. Our conversations with them continue, and our view is that the issue is not a larger roundabout, the issue is how do we slow traffic down so that the smaller roundabout that you approved can be safely constructed and operated. And we've had conversations with the county about what steps we can take together, because to the north of the city on San Juan Highway there, that's the jurisdiction of the county, and they're prepared to work with us to identify through signage or other traffic control measures ways to reduce the speeds from Prescott Road south so that the entrance into the roundabout can be handled safely. Those conversations continue. The only good news I can report tonight is that a parcel map has been submitted that does dedicate the right-of-way on the south side of the street, so we're making progress.
Thank you.
I think these guys need to go to Seaside and look the roundabouts in Seaside.
Yeah, Santa Teresa, I mean, they work. Yeah, they
Yeah,
work.
they're not too big and they're really nice.
And you can only come so
roundabouts.
fast down that road. There's so many potholes, and if
Yeah.
you hit it too fast, you're in the ditch. So, no, okay, thank you. That's
Can I bring up another subject? What about the water softener? Is,
that on there? The water treatment?
Yeah.
Is that on this thing, Todd?
I don't see it.
No, I don't think, I mean,
The list is private development projects that are under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Commissioner Medeiros is raising a capital improvement project issue that is of concern to the City Council and apparently of concern to the Planning Commissioners. Maybe I can give a little advance of my city manager report. One of the things I wanted to tell you about is the preparation of the city budget. So the city's budget year begins on July the 1st. And the city manager has a responsibility to make a recommended budget. We'll be submitting that to the city council on May 21st. I expect the council thereafter will conduct a series of workshops and then a public hearing on June the 18th for adoption of the city budget. I will be recommending that the city council approve a budget that calls for both a sewer and water master plan, and in both of those, and they're connected, we need to once and for all determine the feasibility and efficacy of the pelletized softening plant. It was purchased 10 years ago, hasn't been installed, as everyone knows. It's not altogether clear that it will do what it was intended to do, but we need to have some folks sort that out for us.
Good, thank you. Look at that. He's got the full Monty right there. Okay, we can move on to
thank you.
number 7, comments. Planning commissioners, we have any comments?
No.
Comment? I didn't get a chance to go uptown much until the evening this weekend, and it looked like it went well. I mean, actually,
It was
Sunday there were
gangbusters.
3 events going on. There was the mission, and then the Native Americans, and then the rib cook-off, and it seemed like I only heard sirens a couple times, so that was a good thing. And I have pulse points, so it didn't go off too much. So, yeah, it seemed like it worked pretty good. That's good. You know, and we should probably thank the community for that. I mean, sometimes our public puts up with a lot. They were parked all the way past my house, all the way into almost to Awani and Lona up there at first. Kind of remind me of the old
Rodeo days.
the rodeo and the flea market days. Remember they used to park on 156 for the flea market?
Yeah.
You would walk like 6 miles just to get to the flea market.
Yeah.
And then walk to the flea market. Yeah, it looked good. And then another thing,
Very crowded.
yeah, it was crowded.
Totally.
It seemed like people dealt with it, and I didn't see any parking squabbles or anything. Like I said, it was only limited time. And then I was telling Shirley, middle of the month, I'm doing something which kind of goes along. I should have probably mentioned the historic resource thing. My wife and I are going to do the Natchez Trace Parkway, which is you start in Natchez, Mississippi, and you drive to Nashville. It's 440 miles of national park. It's a 2-lane national park. So I'm kind of looking forward to, and Sean is excited because of the historic walking trail and things like that of how they present their buildings and stuff. And it's the original trade route from the trappers and the Indians from Nashville, Tennessee River down to Mississippi. And there's sections of it that are sunken, from so much trade
Right.
route. And there's a lot of Indian mounds and Civil War battlefields. And so it's going to be pretty exciting. And so we're always constantly, it's funny when we travel abroad, we're always kind of, how can we make our buildings look a little bit better? And, we ask them, hey, how did you guys get the money to paint these things? It's just something always constant with us. That's enough. City planner.
No, sir, I have no
Nothing?
comments tonight.
And Mr. City Manager, anything else? Or?
Just to finish up on the budget, so the Planning Commission will have a role. Those of you who went to Planning Commissioner School learned that among the duties of the Planning Commission is to approve the capital improvement program for its, quote, consistency with the general plan. I've worked with planning commissions a lot of times, and sometimes planning commissioners want to talk about whether it was a good project or not. But the only thing you're supposed to do is find out whether the project that's proposed is consistent with the general plan. So we'll be presenting that to you at your meeting in June. Okay. So you have that opportunity to make that finding and pass it on to the city council. And then secondly, just to bring you up to date, we, the city council, and I have been recruiting for and will soon be interviewing for permanent city manager, and it's likely that the next city manager will be on board first part of July.
Wow, that's moving pretty quick. You really want to leave? You had enough, San Juan?
Yeah.
Had enough drama?
Yeah, I said the same thing. Do you want to leave?
Please reconsider.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. Adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Adjourned.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.